Well, we're at 10:02. So Randy's actually unmuted already. So why don't we just get into the program and then we'll go around and introduce new folks on this committee afterwards. So today we have Randy Kasko, and he has a really incredible story to tell us about his life. So Loretta, do you want to introduce, or do you want to just let Randy go? And
Sure. Randy came to DVR, requested assistance for his job search. We were connected him with Megan Karch, who's actually there. She is with the Blind and Low Vision unit at DVR. She is with the training and accommodations is what she's helped Randy with. And she'll be talking a little bit at the end about the things that she helped him with for his success with Hotel Elegante, which is a place that I reached out to give Randy an opportunity to go in and show his skills, his many skills that he has. And he's done so well. So we thought his story would be worth sharing. So with that, I'll turn it over to Randy. Good morning, Randy. I don't think we can hear him.
Been with. Can you hear me now?
Can hear you now, yes.
Okay. I've been with DVR actually twice. I started 4 years ago, and I'm glad I did, because for me, it was not just life-changing, it was life-altering. I didn't even leave my house prior to DVR, so with the help of learning how to do stuff again, and the mobility direction, and learning how to do a bus and lift and going up and down steps and just all kinds of things. But DVR was instrumental in helping me get the job at Hotel Elegante. And I was a garmache chef when I started there. And I'm now in my 4th year, and I am now the manager of garmache. Just from persistence and always being there. And there's been 12 other people come and go, but I've stuck with it and stuck by it. And I do owe all that to DVR because of the help that they extended to me. And you can't keep me at home now.
Mm-hmm. So Randy, you want to talk a little bit about your journey, how you with your vision and everything?
Sure. Well, to make a long story short, I was born blind in my right eye, and then many years ago, I had a series of strokes, and it took all but 23% vision in my left eye. So at that point, you know, I wouldn't even leave the house. And if I did go to a grocery store, like with my mom, you know, I constantly hung on to the shopping cart, and it was very difficult. So once I started with DVR, it was a whole new ball game because of, you know, the direction that I got from Megan. We would go to different stores, and, you know, I was showed and taught exactly, you know, what to do, how to go upstairs, how to go downstairs. And of course, I do all this now at my job. And they've just been so instrumental in everything that I've done. It gave me a sense of purpose again, because at one point I just felt that I didn't have a purpose left, you know, from losing sight like that. And it's because of DVR and the challenges that I had to go through and meet. DVR helped me with that. And so I was able to utilize everything that they taught me at my job at the hotel, and I kept excelling with it. So I'm so thankful to DVR for what they've done, and I would recommend them to anybody that needed that kind of assistance, because they're just incredible.
And Randy, we want to touch on some of the things that the employer has done. I mean, with giving you the opportunity to come in there, you know, with training, accommodations, you know, it's like they were real hesitant in the beginning, working with somebody with a visual impairment. And then with our, you know, support, they have realized now how important it is to give somebody a chance that could be really one of their top-notch employees. And so just touch briefly on some of the things that Hotel Elegante gave you a chance to overcome, the things that you had to work through, you know, in trainings.
I had, you know, somehow through previous employees that worked there, they did allow me to wear my dark glasses because with all the fluorescent lights in there, I couldn't even take it 10 minutes before I got excruciating headaches. So they allowed me to do that. And when I interviewed with the executive chef, who incidentally is no longer there, he wanted to know if I could use a knife. And I said, well, of course I can use a knife. So they gave me the opportunity. You know, I didn't know whether it was going to be a sink or swim type situation, but, you know, I just showed them what my capabilities were. And I went from there. You know, they allowed me to wear my glasses like that. And in the beginning, I had a little bit of extra help because of, you know, needing to know where stuff was. So they literally took me and showed me instead of just saying, okay, it's over there. And they just have been a gracious place to work. And as far as I know, I'm not the only person with a disability that works there. They have hired since another person. The disability is not visual. It's something I don't understand a lot about. It's something to do with Tourette's. But this fella has become an extremely, but with all the stuff they've helped me with, I just basically ran with it. And I was nominated and won the Shining Star for the first quarter. And then as people were coming and going and not sticking with the hotel, basically, by sticking around, then they made me the manager of garmache. So I'm responsible for doing all of the ordering for that particular department. And if anybody doesn't know what garmache is, it's a fancy French name for I do all the cold salads and, you know, the charcuteries, meat and cheese trays, crudités, all of this. And with all the advent of COVID, I've been pretty much been working by myself because the people that are applying aren't able to pass a drug test, and the people that aren't applying are at home with the unemployment. So it's kind of a touchy situation right now. Very long days, very long hours, but I'm up for the task. And I was able through DVR, when I was reinstated with them, I was able to get a CCTV, which is basically a reader for my department, because I have BEOs, which are banquet event orders, and I'm able to slide them under there and to either make it bigger. And if I still can't make it out, I can hit a button and it reads it to me. So I know what to highlight, and there's never any question on what's coming out of my department. So yeah, it's the hotel has been a great place for me because it was just a perfect fit. And when they saw that I could do what I do, that's when I was made the manager charge of the department. So I'm continuing on.
So with that, Randy, thank you for sharing all of those things with us. I'm going to turn it over to Megan so she can, she works in the blind and low vision unit, and she can talk some about the things that we did for accommodations.
Hi, I'm Megan Karch. I am a certified orientation specialist. And it's a blind rehabilitation discipline. And there's very few of us all over the world and even in the US, and it's a very small field. And I just want to start off with like a few stats and just what is legally blind. And then I'm going to talk about my time with Randy and what other services that we offer in our blind and low vision unit that's under the DVR umbrella. So there's at least 2.2 billion people worldwide that have a near or far visual impairment. And vision disability is one of the top 10 disabilities in the US, and it's one of the most prevalent disabilities in children. And so legally blind, there's two definitions for that. Legally blind with your acuity is your 2200 or worse in your better eye. So basically what that means is someone with 20/20 vision, what they can see at 200 feet, the person that's 2200 or 2300, they can see at 20 feet or less. So that's one of the legally blind definitions. The other definition is if you have a field loss, so think about looking through a tunnel, like tunnel vision, a field loss of 20 degrees or less, and that's also in your better eye. And a lot of the time people think that if someone's legally blind, they don't have any vision at all. But in fact, about 15% of people who are legally blind are totally blind. So a lot of the time when you hear that someone's legally blind, they do still have some usable vision. Like for example, Randy is legally blind, but he still has vision that he's able to use, to read with the different kind of devices and all of that. Just some etiquette for interacting with people who are blind, talking directly to the person. There's been many times when I've been out on lessons and someone comes up to myself and my client and they start talking to me about the client, asking me questions about the client or what the client wants or, what are they doing? And so I always just direct them to the client, just talking directly to someone. Even if they can't see you, it's just a good etiquette. And never grab someone when you see someone who is blind that might look lost or need direction. Always go up to them and ask them, hey, do you need my help? How do you want me to guide you or direct you, instead of just, going up and grabbing them. And that would be very alarming to anyone. So, and then being descriptive. So avoiding over there or right here. If you're say, oh, that's a really cute dog that just walked by, maybe explaining, oh, it's a big dog with floppy ears and brown eyes, and just being more descriptive when you're talking to someone who is legally blind and can't see those things. And so, of course, going back to talking about training with Randy, he talked a little bit about cane training. So going upstairs, getting good orientation skills. So it's called orientation and mobility. And so there's a whole program for cane training that, if you see someone that is legally blind that has a cane, just know that there is a whole program that they learn to be able to cross streets safely, going upstairs, riding the bus, taking Uber and Lyft. So there's a very extensive training program that we are able to offer here at DVR. And then also, besides the orientation and mobility training with Randy, we did a lot of low vision. So he talked about a CCTV. So it looks pretty much like a desktop computer, and you can has a camera pointing down like at a table, and you can put a piece of paper underneath and it can magnify, it can change the contrast. So it could be, big black letters on a white background or big white letters on a black background, whatever the person with the visual impairment prefers. That's something that we determine and kind of figure out in the beginning of their training. And so we did a lot of low vision devices and low vision training and orientation and mobility. And Randy and I worked together probably between 2016 and 2018. And I am just so proud of how far he has come. I met Randy when he was living at home with his parents still, and now he has, purchased his own home. He has a job with many promotions, and he is one of the hardest workers that I've ever met. And that is something that happens a lot with the clients that I work with specifically, is if someone will give them a chance to show how hard of a worker they are and what type of, be willing to work with, figuring out what type of accommodations they might need to do the job, they will go above and beyond most of the time to show their employer that they can do it. So I'm really proud of Randy. I have a lot of other clients too that have gotten really cool jobs and just, you know, they kept at it even after like a year or two of just no from employers. They usually can find an employer that will give them a chance, and they'll work really hard. So, and then before I end with that, I just want to talk a little bit about what our unit can also offer besides just general training. So general training, we have adaptive communication, assistive technology, low vision, like I mentioned, orientation and mobility, like I mentioned. And then we also have adaptive daily living skills. So when Randy was talking about, can you use a knife? There are adaptive ways to use a knife and cut and chop and slice and all of that with vision loss. So there's pretty much everything that you do daily. There is training and an adaptation for that specific task. So that's kind of what I do in general terms. And then also our unit is statewide. We're certified professionals. We all have master's degrees in a blind rehab discipline. And so we're spread out all over, all the way out to Grand Junction, up to Fort Collins, down to Pueblo. We cover every single part of the state. And we are able to do that general training like I talked about. And we also can go in and do worksite evaluations, which I did with Randy a couple of times. And we're able to go in and make equipment recommendations. We can provide orientation and mobility, you know, in the new workspace, in the building. How are we going to get from your desk to the bathroom or the conference room? So we can provide that training actually in the work environment, and then also make those equipment recommendations. And we also can educate staff. So if you hire someone who is legally blind, has a visual impairment, and you want your staff to learn more about how to interact with someone who's blind, kind of like how I talked about the etiquette when you're talking to someone who's blind or interacting with someone. So we can actually go in and educate staff too. We can educate supervisors. We can just provide education just about legal blindness and visual impairment. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I do. I feel like I explain what I do and people are still like, huh? So like I said, we're a very small field, but we are out there and we are able to provide that extra support to our clients who are blind or visually impaired. So.
Thank you, guys. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. DVR covers a lot of different types of disabilities. We have, mental health, we deal with all of it. School age kids dealing with autism, you know, we have so many different departments that are specific to the disability. But I'm always out in the community talking to employers about hiring and the types of accommodations that we can make for individuals that are job seeking. We do a lot of assessments on everybody to make sure they're ready for employment before I go out and talk about them and try and make that connection and get them interviews. And so the employers usually has a real good heads up on the type of person that we're trying to help with the career change. So with that being said, if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Now's the chance that we got Randy here, who I'm very proud of. It was an honor to work with him and see his determination, and Megan going way out of her way, even today, being here to kind of explain everything. I really appreciate that because she was so instrumental in his success for sure. So all I did was connect the employer with Randy and let them do the rest. So.
Hi, Loretta. This is Chantel. I know you and I just want to give a shout out to DVR. I actually have one of my staff who does benefits planning, is legally blind, and he worked with DVR and did all the training that Megan is talking about. So, you know, it's pretty impressive what anybody with a disability, and then those that are legally blind, what jobs that they can still perform. So he's performing a very high functioning, in a high functioning position. So just a shout out to DVR and all of their services that they do provide. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chantal.
You bring up a really good point. I always tell people that with people who are legally blind or have a visual impairment, they can do just about any job, except for drive a car, you know, and operate that big, heavy machinery. But I mean, I just had a client who got a job with Amazon as an accessibility specialist, and it's like her dream job. She's moving to Seattle in a couple of months. I've had a nursing director job, customer service jobs, a greeter, announcer at the Arc, dishwasher, CNA, teacher, massage therapist. So they can really do anything that we can do, you know, people that have their vision, but there's just all those different accommodations out there. And so just, they can pretty much do any job is what I'm trying to say.
It's really about educating the employers, you know, that they are, you know, they can do anything, because we can really help them with that. So that's one of the struggles, is when I approach an employer, it's like, you can tell the hesitance that they have, and it's just really getting the word out of what we can provide, what kind of services to make them successful. And then the employer is usually happy because they've got somebody who's dedicated, that will stay, that's not looking for other jobs. So, you know, it's really, it's a wonderful job to see all the success stories that we do have. So.
I
Any
did, yeah, and maybe Megan, you can answer this, but what's the best way for job posting for someone with low vision or someone that's blind?
So that one's a little tricky, because I know a lot of job postings, they end up going through Indeed and, you know, those types of job search engines. But that's a tricky one. So if you have a direct application, sometimes those are not accessible, like with screen readers. So just, you know, maybe double checking to make sure that it is accessible with a screen reader. With low vision, people are usually able to blow it up big enough, you know, change that contrast if they need to and fill it out. But for someone that's totally blind, it happens a lot where job postings just aren't accessible to them. So they'll click on the link and the screen reader it's just not accessible. So, you know, if that is something that's able to be looked at before posting a job, if it is accessible with or compatible with a screen reader, then that would be helpful too. So, but something too with DVR is usually our clients are working with a job coach too, so they can help with those applications that aren't accessible. But in a perfect world, you know, someone who was totally blind using a screen reader would be able to access any job on their own to apply for. So that's a really good question.
And I'd just like to say too, that if any of you know of someone who has a disability, we always say documented, but we can help them with that, to make sure and refer them if they're struggling with either their employment, because we can come in and help with job retention. And also, you know, if they need help, they're having difficulty keeping a job or maintaining that job or getting a job, make sure to refer them to DVR, and I'll post that link in the chat box, and then we can work with them. And if they need a job coach or accommodations, we can help them with that.
Yeah, I would say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, and then I'll ask my question.
Okay. I was going to say I would say about a quarter, maybe a little less than a quarter of our blind and low vision caseload is job retention. So people that maybe they had a visual impairment, but their eye condition was progressive and it's gotten worse and they're struggling to do their current job. That's huge. They're able to open a case with us as well and do some job retention services and, you know, brush up on their training if they need it, and maybe do another work site evaluation just based on their vision change.
Yeah, the question I had was, is there a place where people can list like low vision friendly or really any kind of disability like friendly jobs? So that way, even if you've done all the work to maybe potentially on your own sites to make things accessible for people with low vision or any other disabilities, you know, how do they find those particular jobs, even if they would like to, or as an employer, how do you let other people know that you have jobs that are available to people with disabilities? And then you said you also work with school-age children. I have an autistic child. So how early would you recommend someone starting, with DVR? Do you have like a pathway? Do you start blind child all the way up to, hey, let's get in with Randia's, right? Where they're moving, they're going, they're getting everything that they want to get done. What does that look like for an individual?
Laura, I can talk a little bit about the youth if you want to
Go
take
ahead.
Okay, so specifically, I mean, this is with any disability. I'm just more familiar with the blindness, the youth that are visually impaired or blind, but we can start working with youth starting at age 15. So just depending on how ready they are to start exploring careers or career options, I would say, like, who knows what they want to do when they're 15. I didn't know what I wanted to do until I was about 24 or 25. So, but just kind of exposing them to career exploration. That's kind of, it's called a YP case. So it's different than a full voc rehab case. So Randy did a full voc rehab case. And so with the YP cases, it's just more about job exploration, and possibly maybe doing a paid work experience, like in the summer during, when school is off. So we're able to also set up paid work experiences as well in the community. And that's something that Loretta helps out with as a business outreach specialist. So I would say about 15, usually we don't see a lot of 15-year-olds, at least for the blind. But I would say 16, 17, they kind of start rolling in if they're interested. And it's just kind of just think of it as the career exploration phase of voc rehab.
Then also you can, I don't know what school district they're in, but almost every school district has the School to Work Alliance program. It's called SWAP, where they should be, I don't know if you've heard of that, but usually every school has part of that in it where they can be enrolled in that, and that helps them with all the different skills training as well. And when she talks about a paid work experience, that's where we set them up in the community to actually do the work, but we pay the wages for up to 160 hours for that person to get the job experience, to see if it's a good fit for either the employer. For both of them, it has to be a good fit, and so we see what kind of accommodations they would need. It gives us time to really assess the situation. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and paid work experiences are, they're great for the client, they're great for the employer. Sometimes they end up turning into a full-time or part-time job. So it's just know that that's an option for DVR, or if someone was to go through DVR as well.
Loretta, you might want to, since you were talking about SWAP and assessments, talk about that DVR also provides like situational assessments.
Yeah, the situational assessments is one that you go into a place like when I was a vendor, I was doing the situational assessments. So I would take them out into the community, trying to get a position along the lines of the career path that they want to go. And we do an assessment for 30 hours just to see what their skill level really is. And so we assess them. It's not a paid thing. It's just a volunteer thing that we have them go out, and then you assess them on were they able to follow directions? Did they show up on time? And you do the assessment to see what skills do they possess that would work maybe into this position or a different position, because you need to find out what skills they have. And so that's just more of a volunteer, but it's a short-term volunteer to get more information, when you're not sure of what they really can do. Use that a lot on some of the teens that are coming out, because they always say, like, I had one that said, I want to work at the airport. So we take them out there and let them do the cart. They just were hypnotized by, I want to drive the cart. That's all they could talk about. Then I get them out there and let them lift the luggage for a while. And they're like, oh, I don't like this job. So that's the type of assessments and what we can do to figure out what they really want to do. So.
I have a question for Randy. Randy, what was your biggest challenge in learning this new job, and how did you overcome it?
Excuse me. Well, the biggest challenge was actually the house that I bought is right next door to my job. And there was a lot of barricades to get to the job. I had to go out in front of my park, and then there was a lack of sidewalk on that part of Circle Drive. And excuse me. So I think that was the biggest part, was the getting there. So, but I overcame it. Now I simply cut through a fence. Don't tell nobody. But yeah, that was the big challenge when I first started. So yeah.
Yeah, transportation is a big barrier to employment for people who are legally blind, visual impairment. So, you know, our city is doing a really good job of, you know, expanding bus systems and the paratransit door-to-door service. And right now it's a little hard for Lyft and Uber, just for anyone just trying to get a ride just because of the pandemic. But transportation is a big barrier to employment. So having different options is always a good thing.
And we appreciate Randy today getting to the office, you know, just something that he's learned through Megan on how to get from place to place without having any assistance, and he does it on his own. It's awesome. Any other questions?
I have
Thank you.
one, if I may. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
For Randy.
Thank you very much.
What advice would you have for employers, for someone looking to create a diverse team? What advice would you have for employers so that we can gain the benefits of someone like you?
That's pretty quick and basic. I would simply tell them, do not knock us until you have tried us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Randy.
You're welcome.
He's having difficulty, it looks like.
Yeah, I think the internet's lagging just a little bit.
Yeah.
That's okay. We can get most of what's being said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ramon, if I can add to what Randy said, just being someone who employs an individual who is legally blind, I think the biggest thing for me when I was, you know, really looking at someone to fill my position was being open to the idea that that individual is no less than anybody else that we're trying to hire. And just keep in mind that really the only thing that they would need to be able to do their job 100% is those accommodations. So, and the thing is, some employers, I think accommodations are extremely expensive. You know, they have to, whatever it is. But for the most part, I'm sure Megan can attest to this too, that a lot of accommodations are extremely either cheap to achieve or free, or there's always a way to find those right accommodations. So I think it just first starts with just being open to the idea of having somebody who is legally blind on your team.
Yeah, and that's something too that DVR can help out with. We, of course, the first option is for the employer to provide the accommodations, but if that is not the recommended ones, and if that's not possible, I mean, we're going to do everything we can to get those accommodations for our clients to be successful in their employment. So we can help with the equipment as well, just kind of working with the employer on that piece.
And anytime that you're hesitant, you have questions, feel free to reach out to me, because I go out and talk to employers and do a lot of training. And I can also help with training the staff, like Megan had mentioned. You know, we do a lot of training for disability etiquette, disability awareness. You know, I did a big thing at Walmart for people that they hire a lot now, people with disabilities, but they're also targeted in a lot of ways. So we do a lot of big trainings with them. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions. And if you have a position that you're thinking about filling, you know, please reach out to me and I'll see if we have somebody that's ready for that type of career path.
There's also incentives for the employers, right? There's WOTC, which are tax credits, and there's benefits for hiring people with disabilities.
Right.
So there is that added benefit as well.
I have a general question too for Randy, I think. But since Hotel Elegante is your employer, can you think of other ways that maybe they have changed anything at their hotel or their operations because of the perspective that you bring to make themselves more accommodating to customers who are dealing with legally blindness? Like, I do think that raises a lot of questions for their organization, I would hope. And one of those benefits could be that having you on their team maybe increases their awareness and helps them serve customers better. Do you think that's the case, Randy?
Yeah, I do, because I mean, I'm not in front of house a lot, you know, only if I should have to go to the personnel office or something. But they have seen me, and I've seen other people there with white sticks. But one of the other things that the hotel did, I don't think it was exclusively for my benefit, however, but they went to a new time clock system where you used to have to punch in the last 6 of your social security number and then hit enter. But now all I have to do is enter punch, and I put my finger on it. It's fingerprint read. So that is so helpful, because the screens on those time clocks are so small. It's like, you know, maybe I'm clocking in on somebody else's social security. I don't know. But for a fail-safe for that, we also at the time had a sign-in sheet as well. So besides your electronic punches, we, you know, had a sign-in sheet so where they could verify the two together. But they have gone to this, I believe it's called a Chronos, and all it takes is one button push and one reader scan of the fingerprint, and you're done. So it was very, very helpful. Very, very helpful.
I also want to bring up that Hotel Elegante. I nominated them for the Shining Star Award, which was presented by the governor, because of their willingness to go above and beyond with hiring people with disabilities. Randy is not the only one that I've placed there into various positions. They've hired in housekeeping and laundry, servers in the restaurant. And so they wanted somebody who's really, you know, working with the EDI type stuff, you know, and they really do go above and beyond, and they have made accommodations for a lot of the other clients. And so just to let you know, I mean, they've done a wonderful job, and I'm sure a lot of you, you know, I hope we've piqued your interest a little bit about learning more. And I'd be happy to come and talk more about and give you pamphlets and information in case you know somebody with a disability that you'd like to refer to us.
Do you have any more questions? Yeah.
We're thinking along the same lines.
Okay, well, if it's okay with Loretta and Randy and Megan, is it okay that I make this recording available to the, you know, community as a whole? Because there's a lot of good information in here.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Randy, we need your permission too. You know,
Oh, absolutely. I'm more than willing to help in any way I can. Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, this was
my battery is down to 10%. So if I don't get to say anything else, it sure was nice talking to all of you, and I'm glad you got to see me.
Thank you, Randy.
Yes, thanks, Randy, for spending some time with us this morning. We appreciate your story and your journey.